first off, congrats on your run on this show. I guess I want to start there, which is how were you feeling when you first got that premiere episode script and saw the way that things turned out for A-Train?
To be honest with you, Megan, I knew about it about a year before I got the pages, but turning the pages is like waiting on bated breath. You know what I mean? You're just like, I know what's coming. I know what's coming. I just got to see how it's going to happen. I think the thing that sort of drew me in the most was like the conversations that A-Train was getting to have leading up to that moment. You know what I mean? We were like finally peeling back all of these layers and giving him like some real honest, almost like a breakdown in front of like different characters that you normally would never have these type of moments with. Is very liberating, you know. But Eric told me about the A-Train's end about a year before we got those pages, as they were sort of working it around in the writers' room, sort of workshopping ideas and stuff. He told me that that's where they were going to end. And the way that it was going to happen, honestly, I was like, this dude is modern Shakespeare. Like, you know what I mean? He really took a character that was very one-dimensional and made him, you know, a full circle, 3D, deep-rooted, real character. And it's just not often that you get a chance to play a character that makes a full circle like that. So I was just honored to be killed by Eric's pen.
Of course. I mean, to talk about the full circle nature of it, obviously leading up to this final showdown with Homelander, you know, Adrian steps in front of Huey and pushes him out of the way, knowing, you know, what that will stir up or what that will bring about for him. You know, is he still always trying to make up for that loss or that kill of Robin in the first season? Or do you think he's made peace with that at that point?
No, I don't think he's made peace with it. I think that, like, you know, all the mistakes that A-Train made leading up to that moment sort of live with him the moment he got out of Vought, you know what I mean? And he does absolutely still feel guilty about it. And I think that's why he goes for Huey the way that he does. You know, he's sort of, I don't feel like he owes him, you know, that, but it's just, it's hard. It's hard to explain, really. You know, I just feel like he cares about him because of the damage that he's done to him. I don't know if that makes any sense. He did something bad. He feels bad about it, even though he's not consciously doing things like, I'm going to do this for Huey because of that. He's just like always trying to make up for something that he just honestly could never really make up for.
Yeah. I mean, there's like kind of a weird sense of duty, even though that, you know, he, like you said, he doesn't really owe Huey anything. Right. You know, you also have this starting the season off on a different side of the fight for the first time, really. Was it nice to kind of know that you were, I don't want to say on the right side of the fight, because I guess it depends on your perspective. Was it nice to start it off on a new foot? And what was like the excitement about kind of interacting with the other boys? I love like that exchange that A-Train has with Kamiko. Like, you can talk now? And all these different moments. So like, what was it like to get to work with new co-stars or, you know, co-stars you haven't necessarily got to cross paths with?
Yeah, it was great, honestly. You know, sometimes we always joke about like, it feels like we're shooting different shows sometimes, you know? And for me, this was like the first time that I felt like I was on a completely different show, like playing a completely different character. It felt foreign. You know, it was a little strange, to be honest with you, but I liked being uncomfortable in that way. I loved being able to like just have that conversation with Kimiko, to have a familiarity with Annie that like we never got a chance to explore before. You know, it was nice. It was like, okay, we've been doing this for 5 seasons. I feel like it's time to have, you know, some different conversations and to not be in the suit. You know, that was, once you take the suit off, I automatically don't feel like A-Train anymore. Now all of a sudden I'm Reggie Franklin. You know, it just felt like I was playing a completely different character. And I actually loved it. I love that we were able to like put him in a completely new and different environment for that 5th and final season. And that to me just sort of strips away all of the layers that he has sort of packed on to be a part of that world of Vought. Now we get like this very direct, just genuine person who's honest. You know, this is also the first time that A-Train's just been honest, to be honest with you. And I like that. I like that a lot.
We get to see his humanity, which is like the interesting part. When it gets deep into like the human versus the soup, and like how maybe they're all just humans at the end of the day. There's just some of them that have that extra ability about them. But you also
100%.
have a final discussion with your brother, which is also very emotional because I feel like, Adrian's trying to drive home that, this is a serious situation. And his brother's talking about it like, oh, we can go here next or do this. And he's looking at it kind of this idealistic way, even though they're really on the run. So what was it like to kind of have that final discussion with them and also make that final run for his brother and know that he was able to save him from the fury of Homelander?
Yeah. I mean, that was such a weighted moment. I feel like his brother's been the only person that sort of puts, his perspective out there. He's the only person that he's been able to like talk to. He knows his secrets, things of that sort, so having that moment with his brother while he's on the run, just sort of facing it and being, like I said, just being honest for the first time, you know what I mean? It was really eating A-Train up. And I like playing around in that world, I like playing around and not knowing how to manage the emotions necessarily, just sort of feeling it out. I felt like every line in that scene just came with like a lot of premeditated thought. And it was nice to be able to just get those words out. You know what I mean? And it had to happen with those two characters. I hate that it got interrupted. I felt like I could have stayed in that scene for 20 minutes, but obviously we can't. But it was such a long waited breath that he was able to take, just from being able to say, you don't have to do that. It just felt like everything was a little bit more weight off of his shoulders. And, it was just a long time coming. Obviously, it's not a good situation for them to be in, but they did have each other. And I was happy that we were able to sort of explore that before A-Train's final breath.
Yes. And speaking of the final breath, I mean, what's the point in time do you think that he realized like there was no way out for him, in this Homelander versus A-Train battle? And what was the joy of getting to kind of approach that sequence with his, like, there's a lot of flippancy in his tone with him. Like he's just, that's the most triggering thing for a character like Homelander is to know that like in this person's eyes, you don't mean anything to them. And that ultimately they're,
oh my goodness,
nothing. I love that he gets that moment with him.
Yeah, me too. This was like the only quote unquote win that A-Train was going to have. I think at the end of the day, when he's finally realized that this is his end, I think it was like after he sort of stands up from the tree and he looks at Homelander. And I played around with this idea with Eric a little bit and the director, Phil, and we were just sort of talking. And I was thinking, like, does he make a move as if he's going to start running again? It's like, no, he stands up, he looks down, and then he just finally looks at Homelander and he's like, this is it. You know what I mean? And from that moment, I was almost like fighting back a smile the entire time, which is kind of weird. You know what I mean? He's like tired, he's beat up, he's hurt, he knows he's going to die, but he's not afraid anymore. And that makes him so happy that like, even when he's about to die, he just like laughs, like a genuine laugh. He's just like, oh, finally, I don't have to do that anymore. I don't feel like I have to please this person. I don't have to run away for the rest of my life anymore. I can just like face the demon that I've been hiding from for so long. And it just felt nice, like it really did. Like the laugh isn't in the script. It didn't feel right at first, but I think that moment of resolution started to feel so good that eventually, or maybe it was just deliriousness because we were shooting at like 4 a.m. But I just think, in that moment, it's the only thing that felt right. It was the only thing that felt right. It was the only thing that I felt like A-Train deserved that moment. After he makes that sacrifice, he knows he's going to die. The moment he shows up to the camp, he knows that like, Homeland is going to be on his ass. There was just no way that he was going to make it out of that. So I just think that when he finally realizes what's going to happen, the thing that he's going to leave with Homelander is that laugh. It's like the last laugh, if you will.
Yeah, taunting him just in his mind.
Yeah.
I guess, that leads me to ask, how do you think that sets the tone for the rest of the season? And in what ways do you think that rattles Homelander, as he continues down this path? I don't know how much you got to see of the rest of the season, considering you were, gone after one episode. Do you know of like what's going to happen next, and what can you tease, about how that, sets the tone for the rest of the character?
Well, I mean, me and Anthony talked about that moment a lot, about what that's going to mean for Homelander and like how that's going to sort of sit in his mind. And that's really what sort of pushed us in the direction of giving A-Train that last laugh was I hope that it keeps him up at night. Like as the character, this is like the thing that you give him because you hope that it really does stick with him forever. And I see it unfolding in different ways. I completely removed myself I was like hiding myself from the group chat, trying not to hear any spoilers. I refused to let anyone tell me what was happening. They kept asking me, do you want to know? I said, no, I don't want to know anything. I want to be surprised. I want to watch, when the episodes come out. I want to see how that trickles down. I just want to see how those moments continue to play out. But yeah, I know nothing. So we'll see.
Do you hope to see A-Train come back in any other spinoffs? We know that obviously Vought Rising, not really the era that A-Train would have been alive in, but The Boys as a franchise still continues to live beyond, the fifth and final season of the flagship. So do you think his story's over, or do you think there's any room for, a comeback in other shapes or forms?
I mean, anything is possible in the world of The Boys. Like they can sort of play around with the idea. I hope that it would make sense. I know that's easier like said than done, but if they're going to bring A-Train back into another story, like I want the story to be important and impactful in the way that it has been, on this show for the last 5 seasons. Like we really have taken the time and made very intricate moments to sort of change this character. And I feel like I wouldn't want to tamper with that. So I don't know how they could do it, but I don't put anything past Eric Kripke. Like he's, I gave him so much credit for what he's done with this character from season 1 till now. And if he decides to jump in and around the timeline and put A-Train anywhere, I will happily put the suit back on. I love playing this character. This Reggie Franklin character is very close to me. And I would be honored to come back and do, whatever version of whatever story that they would want to get into. So I'm open to it, but we'll see.